Whispers to the Moon, a West African fantasy tale, The Dying Land. The wind carried the scent of dust and dry earth, a whisper of suffering that Abeni could feel deep in her bones. The village of Nsua had not seen rain in months. The river that once sparkled under the sun had shrunk into a thin, muddy trickle. Crops withered before they could bear fruit, and the cattle grew weak. Abeni knelt beside the cracked earth, pressing her dark fingers into the soil. She closed her eyes, listening. She had always believed the land could speak, through the rustling of trees, the songs of birds, the rhythm of the river. But now, there was only silence. "Abeni!" Her younger brother Kojo called from the path. He was barefoot, his ribs showing beneath his thin tunic. "Come quickly! Elder Nana wants to see you!" Abeni wiped the sweat from her forehead and hurried toward the village square, where the elders sat beneath the great baobab tree. Its thick roots twisted over the ground like ancient veins, a symbol of wisdom and strength. Elder Nana, her wrinkled face lined with years of knowledge, lifted her staff as Abeni approached. "Child, the land is crying," she said. "The ancestors whisper of a curse long forgotten. We must find a way to bring back the rain, or we will not last another season." Abeni's heart pounded. "What can we do?" The elder studied her with piercing eyes. "You, child, have always been different. You listen to the wind, you hear the trees, and at night I see you speak to the moon." Abeni swallowed hard. It was true. Since she was little, she had felt drawn to the moon. When it shone full and bright, she would climb to the highest hill and whisper her dreams to it. Sometimes, she felt as if it whispered back. "The moon spirit holds many secrets," Elder Nana continued. "Long ago, our ancestors spoke to her in times of great need, but the connection has been lost." Abeni's hands clenched into fists. She was only 16. What could she possibly do? Elder Nana placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Tonight, when the moon is highest, go to the sacred hill. Ask the moon spirit for guidance. If there is an answer to be found, she will show you the way." Abeni nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at her. She had always believed in the old ways, but speaking to a spirit? Would the moon truly answer? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep shades of gold and crimson, Abeni knew one thing. She had to try. The moon's answer. That night, the village lay in restless sleep. The hunger, the fear. It weighed on everyone. But Abeni could not sleep. She wrapped herself in a thin cloth and slipped past the mud huts, her bare feet silent against the dusty ground. The sacred hill stood beyond the village, crowned with wildflowers that still clung to life despite the drought. Abeni climbed, her heart beating in rhythm with the night. Above her, the moon hung full and bright, silver light bathing the world in an eerie glow. Abeni knelt, pressing her forehead to the ground. "Great moon spirit," she whispered, "I am Abeni of Nsua. My people are suffering. The land is dry. The river is dying. Please, help us." Silence. The wind stirred, cool against her skin. Abeni's breath hitched as the moonlight seemed to grow brighter, wrapping around her like a gentle embrace. A voice, soft as the rustling of leaves, echoed in her mind. "Daughter of the earth, your land is bound by an old sorrow." Abeni gasped, her head snapping up. "Who speaks?" The moon shimmered, and from its glow, a figure emerged. A woman with skin like the night sky, her eyes shining like twin stars. Her robes flowed like water, shifting between silver and blue. "I am Selene, the guardian of the moon," the figure said. "Long ago, your ancestors made a promise to the spirits of the land. That promise was broken, and now the earth suffers." Abeni's pulse quickened. "How can I fix it?" Selene's gaze was sad. "You must seek the river spirit. She holds the truth of what was lost. But beware, child. Shadows have grown strong in the silence. There are those who do not wish for the past to be mended." Abeni felt a chill run down her spine. "Where can I find the river spirit?" Celine raised a hand, and the wind carried a whisper. "Follow the path of the forgotten waters." Then, like mist in the morning sun, she was gone. Abeni sat frozen, her heart hammering. The path of the forgotten waters? What did that mean? She knew only one thing for sure. If she wanted to save her village, she had to find out. The journey begins. The next morning, Abeni told Elder Nana everything. The old woman listened, her face grave. The path of the forgotten waters. It must mean the old river. Abeni frowned. She had heard stories of a river that once flowed through their land, but it had dried up long before she was born. Where does it lead? Elder Nana pointed toward the distant mountains. Beyond the hills, deep into the forest of echoes. No one has ventured there in generations. Abeni's stomach tightened. The forest was said to be filled with spirits, some kind, others vengeful. Kojo, who had been listening, grabbed her arm. "You can't go alone." "I must," Abeni said, though fear churned inside her. "The moon spirit chose me." Elder Nana pressed a small leather pouch into Abeni's hands. "Take this. It holds herbs for protection. And remember, child, spirits listen to those who speak with honesty and respect." Abeni nodded, gripping the pouch tightly. As she left the village, the sun rising behind her, she whispered a silent prayer to the moon. She did not know what dangers lay ahead, but she knew one thing. She would not return without the answers her people needed. Into the forest of echoes. Abeni walked for hours, the sun blazing above her as she followed the dry riverbed toward the distant hills. The land stretched vast and empty, the silence unsettling. She had never been this far from Nsua alone. By midday, she reached the first line of trees. The forest of echoes loomed ahead, its canopy thick with twisted branches that cast shifting shadows on the ground. Abeni hesitated. The stories spoke of spirits who wandered here, whispering names in the wind, calling travelers deeper until they were lost forever. She touched the leather pouch Elder Nana had given her and stepped forward. The air changed instantly. Inside the forest, the heat of the sun faded, replaced by a cool dampness. Leaves rustled, though there was no wind. Abeni swallowed hard and pressed on. As she walked, she noticed the faintest trace of water, dark streaks in the soil, like a memory of a river long gone. She was on the right path. Suddenly, a voice drifted through the trees. "Abeni!" She froze. The sound was distant, yet familiar. It came again. "Abeni!" Her mother's voice. Abeni's breath caught in her throat. It couldn't be. Her mother had died when she was a child. She turned slowly. A shadow moved between the trees. A woman stepped forward, wrapped in a flowing white cloth. Her face was hidden, but her voice was unmistakable. "Abeni, my daughter, come to me." Abeni's heart pounded. The stories were true. The spirits of the forest mimicked voices of loved ones, luring travelers deeper. She squeezed her eyes shut. "It is not real. It is not real." The figure stepped closer. "Why do you fear me, child? I have missed you." Abeni's fingers curled into fists. "You are not my mother." The spirit hissed, its form shifting into something dark and shapeless. "You are wise, girl," it whispered. "But wisdom will not save you." The shadows around it thickened, curling toward Abeni like reaching hands. She turned and ran. The forest blurred around her as she sprinted forward, dodging twisted roots and low-hanging branches. The voices faded behind her, replaced by a new sound, rushing water. She skidded to a stop. Ahead, hidden beneath vines and overgrown roots, was an ancient stone archway. Beyond it, a stream flowed, clear and cold, winding deeper into the forest. The forgotten waters. Abeni took a deep breath and stepped through the archway. The river spirit. The stream wound through a valley hidden within the forest, its banks lined with glowing blue flowers. The air smelled of rain and earth, thick with magic. Abeni knelt beside the water. "Great river spirit," she called, her voice trembling. "I seek your wisdom." For a long moment, there was nothing. Then the water rippled. A woman rose from the river. Her skin shimmered like flowing water. her hair a cascade of reeds and pearls. Her eyes, deep and endless, locked onto Abeni's. "You have come," the spirit said, her voice like the rush of waves. "Few remember my name. Fewer dare to seek me." Abeni bowed her head. "My village is dying. The land is dry and the river is gone. Please, tell me how to fix what was broken." The river spirit's gaze darkened. "Long ago, your ancestors made a promise to protect the land, to honor the spirits of water and sky. But one among them grew greedy. He took what was not his, and the balance was broken. The river withdrew. The land suffered." Abeni's stomach twisted. "Who was it? What did they take?" The spirit's reflection flickered on the water's surface, revealing an image, an ancient chief standing before the moon and river spirits, holding something bright in his hands. "A sacred stone," the spirit murmured. "A gift from the moon to keep the waters flowing. Your ancestors stole it, and in punishment the land was cursed." Abeni's mind raced. "Where is the stone now?" The river spirit's expression was sorrowful. "Lost, buried beneath the ruins of the forgotten shrine." Abeni's heart pounded. She had heard of the shrine, an abandoned temple in the mountains, feared by all who knew of it. "If I return the stone," she asked, "will the curse be lifted?" The river spirit nodded. "But beware. Shadows have laid claim to the shrine. You will not be the only one seeking its power." Abeni set her jaw. She had come too far to turn back now. She would find the stone. She would bring back the rain. No matter what dangers lay ahead, the path of trials. The journey to the forgotten shrine was treacherous. The mountains loomed in the distance, jagged peaks rising into the sky. Abeni followed the river's path, her feet aching from days of walking. The first trial came as she neared the base of the mountain. A deep ravine cut through the land, too wide to cross. Abeni scanned the area. There was an old rope bridge, but its wood was rotted, the ropes frayed. She took a deep breath. She had no choice. Testing each step, she moved forward. The bridge creaked, swaying beneath her weight. Halfway across, a strong gust of wind howled through the canyon. The ropes groaned. A plank snapped. Abeni lunged, gripping the side rope as her feet dangled over the abyss. Her heart thundered. Slowly, she pulled herself up, inching forward until she finally stepped onto solid ground. She collapsed, gasping. But she had made it. She stood, brushing dust from her tunic. The shrine was close now. She could feel it. And something or someone was waiting for her. The Shadow Watchers. Abeni pressed on, her body aching from exhaustion, her mind alert with anticipation. The mountain path twisted and climbed, each step bringing her closer to the forgotten shrine. The wind howled through the jagged rocks, carrying whispers that sent chills down her spine. Then she saw it. Perched atop a plateau, half buried in thyme and vines, stood the forgotten shrine. Its stone pillars were cracked, its once grand entrance cloaked in shadow. The air felt thick, as if the mountain itself was watching her. Abeni took a cautious step forward. The moment her foot touched the stone threshold, the shadows around the shrine shifted. Figures emerged. Tall, cloaked in darkness, their eyes gleamed like embers. They had no faces, only the impression of movement, watching her, waiting. Abeni's breath hitched. The river spirit had warned her she was not the only one seeking the moonstone. A deep voice rumbled through the air. "Turn back, child, this place is not for you." Abeni clenched her fists. "I seek the moonstone. The land is dying. My people are suffering." The tallest shadow stepped forward. "The stone belongs to the shrine now. You cannot take it." Abeni swallowed hard. "Why was it taken? Why was the land cursed?" The shadow tilted its head. "Because power should not belong to mortals. Your ancestors stole from the gods. Now they pay the price." Abeni met its burning gaze. "And what of the innocent, the children who starve, the rivers that no longer sing?" The shadows murmured among themselves. Then the tallest one spoke again. "If you wish to take the stone, you must prove yourself worthy." The ground trembled, the shadows split apart, revealing a staircase descending into the heart of the shrine. The air smelled of damp earth and old magic. Abeni took a deep breath. She stepped inside. The three trials. The corridor was lined with ancient carvings, depicting the moon spirit, the river spirit, and an unknown third figure, its face lost to time. Abeni's footsteps echoed as she descended into the shrine's depths. A vast chamber opened before her, 3 stone doors standing in a semicircle. The shadows whispered again. 3 trials await. Face them, and you may claim the stone. Fail, and you will join the silence of this place. Abeni's stomach tightened. She had no choice. She stepped toward the first door. Trial 1, the test of the mind. The moment Abeni stepped through the door, the world shifted. She was no longer in the shrine. She stood in the center of Nsua, her village, but it was not as she had left it. The land was green, the river full and shining under the sun. People laughed, children played. Her mother, alive and smiling, called to her. Abeni's heart clenched. Could it be real? Had she imagined the drought? Had this all been a dream? Her mother held out her arms. Come, Abeni, stay with us. Abeni took a step forward, then stopped. No, she looked down. Her hands were still covered in dust from the road. Her feet ached from the journey. This was not real. She squeezed her eyes shut. This is a lie. The illusion shattered. The village dissolved into darkness, and Abeni found herself back in the shrine. The first door cracked open. She had passed the first trial. Trial 2, the test of the body. Abeni entered the second chamber. A deep pit yawned before her, its bottom lost in shadow. In the center of the chamber, a single stone pillar stood tall, holding a glowing object. A voice whispered, "Reach it." Abeni scanned the room. No ropes, no ladder. She took a deep breath. She backed up, ran forward, and leapt, her fingers barely catching the ledge of the pillar. The stone scraped against her palms as she pulled herself up. Her arms burned, her body shaking. She hoisted herself to the top, snatching the glowing object. The pillar rumbled, then collapsed. Abeni jumped, twisting in mid-air, landing hard on the other side. The second door opened. One trial remained. Trial 3, the test of the spirit. The final chamber was silent. A single pedestal stood in the center, a bowl filled with clear water resting on top. Abeni approached cautiously. A voice echoed through the air. If you wish to take the stone, you must give something in return. Abeni frowned. What do I have to give? The voice softened. A memory, one that holds your heart. Abeni's breath caught. A memory? Images flashed in her mind. Her mother's laughter, Kojo's smile, Elder Nana's gentle hand on her shoulder. The water shimmered, showing her the day her mother died. The last time her mother sang to her. Her most precious memory. Tears burned Abeni's eyes. If she let it go, she would never remember the song, never hear her mother's voice in her mind again. Her hands shook. But if she didn't, her village would perish. Abeni exhaled, steadying herself. She touched the water. A sharp, cold pain shot through her skull, then silence. She gasped, stepping back. The memory was gone. She couldn't recall the song. But the final door opened. And at the heart of the chamber, bathed in silver light, rested the moonstone. Abeni stepped forward and lifted it. The moment her fingers touched the stone, power surged through her. The ground shook. The shadows roared. The shrine began to collapse. Abeni ran. Chapter 9. The Return. The mountain trembled as Abeni burst from the shrine, the moonstone clutched tightly in her hands. The shadows screamed behind her, but she did not stop running. Down the mountain, through the ravine, back to the river. By the time she reached the edge of the Forest of Echoes, dawn was breaking. She collapsed beside the riverbed, gasping for air. The river spirit rose from the waters, her gaze soft. You have done it. Abeni held out the stone. Will the rains return? The spirit smiled. Place it in the river. With trembling hands, Abeni lowered the moonstone into the dry riverbed. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a drop of water. Then another. Then a flood. Water rushed through the land, filling the river, cascading toward Nsua. The sky darkened, Thunder rumbled. Abanie tilted her head back, tears streaming down her face. The rain had returned. Chapter 10. The Song of the Moon. Abanie returned to Ensua as a hero. The village rejoiced, dancing in the rain, celebrating the return of the river. Elder Nana embraced her. "You have done what no one else could." Kojo beamed. "You spoke to the moon." Abanie smiled softly. She had lost something precious in the shrine. But as the rain fell, she swore she could hear a song in the wind. Faint, gentle, her mother's voice. The moon was watching, and she was never truly alone. The end. Please like and subscribe.